Good afternoon. Welcome to Life Unrehearsed. My name is Matt Delvecchio, specializing in life transitions, downsizing in the senior living industry.
And I'm Corey Sirota, clinical social worker and psychotherapist specializing in grief and loss.
Coming right up on the first half, we're going to be talking to a notary about why so many people these days are updating their wills, powers of attorney, and other legal documents.
So important that I really do, although it's one of those, I don't want to talk about it, we need to talk about it.
Yes, we
But
do.
before we talk about that, I seriously heard you on the radio. I don't know. Every time I turned on the radio, Matt, you were on the radio. I know for sure a couple of times on Andrew Carter, and you were talking about a very serious issue: the senior residences. They're loosening up the rules a bit. What say you?
Yeah, a lot of calls this week, both from families. Talked to a lot of families that are quite happy that they're opening up some of the senior residences. And what I'm referring to now is not the CHSLDs, but what we refer to as the RPAs. These are the autonomous living senior residences. So that's been good for families. I have talked, though, to many of the owners and managers of some of these senior residences, and many of them are supporting the loosening of the rules. But I have to tell you, there are quite a few that are concerned and a little bit nervous because they've been actually very good. Very few cases of COVID or no COVID cases in these autonomous living senior residences. So just a shout out to all the families. I know everyone's excited to see mums and dads and grandparents, which is great. But they're asking everyone, please, to be vigilant, responsible, keep your 2 meters apart, wear your masks, and what they don't want is to have to deal with another outbreak of any COVID cases. So good on all those people, families. Glad to see your parents and grandparents again, and thank you to all the frontline workers in all the senior residences, including the CHSLDs. And Corey, I have to start off by saying Happy Mother's Day, Corey.
Thank you so much, Matt. I really appreciate it. I'm sending Happy Mother's Day to your other half. I'm allowed to say better half.
Yeah, of course.
The lovely Stephanie and all family related. But let me say in general, today is Mother's Day. So I want to begin by giving a shout out to all moms out there. Whether you're a mom, grandma, stepmom, mother-in-law, moms-to-be, a bereaved mom, or someone who plays the role of mom, we're sending you warm wishes today and every day. Really, thanks so much for what you are doing so well. Speaking of doing things so well, we're going to meet two unique moms on the second half of the show. They are, despite these unique circumstances, they are doing some very unique things to navigate Mother's Day. So that's coming up after the 4:30 news.
Yeah, can't wait to hear that. And happy Mother's Day to everyone. Of course, we can't forget about those moms that are no longer with us. I know a lot of family members are thinking of those moms. So we wish you all the very best. And of course, Corey, I have to do a special shout out to my mom, who listens in religiously every Sunday from Oakville, where she lives in Ontario, on the iHeart Radio app. You know, she was born and raised in the Benny Farm area in NDG, and right next to Steinberg's, right there at Cavendish and Sherbrooke. So, Ma, happy Mother's Day to you. And I'm sure one of the other bigger fans, Corey,
right.
for your mom.
I think there's a competition going on between your mom and my mom about who listens more. So, but we appreciate both of you listening in, and thank you, Mom. I'm assuming you're listening. I love you, and I was very, very happy to see you, albeit 6 feet away yesterday, because you look beautiful, and may you always smile the way you do right now.
Very nice. All right. You know, this coronavirus has created a reality check for many people, and it has a lot of people reflecting on their family situation. And as a result, there's been a surge of people adjusting their wills and powers of attorney and other legal documents these days. So fortunately, we have notary Nadia DeRiggi on the line to discuss this issue. Nadia.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Welcome to Life Unrehearsed. And we first have to also wish you a happy Mother's Day.
Thank you very much.
And not just a happy Mother's Day. I understand a little birdie told me, I think it's your son's birthday. Is it today?
It was on Friday.
On
he
Friday.
turned 9.
9 years old. Okay, 2 young children, a son and a daughter. So thank you for taking time on your busy Mother's Day. You know, we've been hearing that there's been a recent surge in the adjustments or modifications or creating these wills and powers of attorney. Are you seeing that at your end?
Absolutely. I am seeing that. So I have been seeing and receiving a higher number of requests than usual. So clients who either have wills who want to revise them absolutely and urgently, or clients who maybe have put off doing their will all of a sudden absolutely want to come in and get it finalized and get it done. So we have been seeing that, and I think you brought up a good point. I think when people are faced with situations such as this pandemic, the natural reflex is to want to protect themselves and protect their loved ones. And so we're seeing that in people's lives. We're seeing in their reactions that this is one of the things that they want to get done, and they want to get it done quickly.
Fair enough. Well, there's a huge sense of urgency, I imagine, right now. There's a lot of confusion for myself and for many, many others in terms of the definitions of some of the legal documents we're talking about. So can you clarify what's a will, power of attorney, protection mandate?
Sure. So I'll try my best. It can be confusing, and I get this question quite a lot. The way I like to explain it to clients, an easy way to differentiate between the power of attorney, the protection mandate, the will, is to ask yourself, when will I need to use this document? So the timing and when you're going to use it. So, for example, if we start with the power of attorney, we are, in the power of attorney, naming and appointing somebody right now, so in the present moment, to assist us with specific tasks. So we're fully capable right now of understanding what we need and who we want to appoint, but maybe physically we're not going to be present or we can't be present to carry out certain actions. So right now we are appointing somebody for us. So for example, or the more common example is somebody who is appointing their spouse as their power of attorney for banking needs, so somebody who maybe can't leave the house, somebody with mobility issues. Another example would be someone who's away on business, and they may appoint their business partner to represent them in a sales transaction if they're not going to be present. So that's for the power of attorney. When we're talking about a protection mandate, it's a little bit different because we're not appointing somebody for right now. We're saying in anticipation of my incapacity. So if ever my doctor declares me incapable of making my own decisions, I'm appointing somebody to make those decisions for me, but it's for the future. It allows us today to appoint somebody in advance to make our daily decisions for us. And then we have the will. So the will is one that people are more familiar with. And with a will, what we're doing is we're really putting down on paper instructions for the transfer of our assets, sometimes for the care of our minor children, after we pass away. So it's, again, here we're not talking about present moment, we're talking about future. We're saying in anticipation of this, so in anticipation of my passing, I'm writing down how I want my assets to be transferred and who I want my assets to go to. So those are the major differences with those three documents.
No, very good explanation. Thank you. There's so much people assume, oh yeah, I've got my power of attorney and I'm good to go for all decision-making powers. So we've got Nadia DeRiggi, a notary, talking to us about the surge in wills and some of these legal documents coming up. So understanding that the will and this could be done for future decisions. The power of attorney, I think you explained that well. It's temporary. Mm-hmm. It is not a permanent thing. And then the protection mandate is when this becomes a permanent decision where you're taking over decision-making powers, usually in cases where someone is inapt, if we understand, right? In all cases of Alzheimer's and so on.
Correct.
All right. Notaries have really had to go out of their way these days in these crazy times. And Nadia, you yourself personally has had to go a little bit out of the way. And we're going to hear just some of the stories that notaries, what they're doing to have to meet some of the clients' needs in these very tricky times.
Welcome back to Life Unrehearsed. I'm Corey Sirota with my co-host Matt Del Vecchio, and we are talking to notary Nadia DeRiggi. She is giving us some very, very important information about keeping our affairs in order and why and what and how. Nadia, I know that we are living in a bizarre time right now in terms of social distancing, and in order to officially mark any of these documents, we need signatures, we need witnesses. So I understand that you have had to go to some pretty interesting lengths to during this pandemic to get those kinds of signatures to happen. Can you share some of those with us?
Sure. So notaries we are actually on the list of essential services in Quebec. And so we have, I know some of my colleagues, myself included, have had to get creative in finding solutions to getting things done for urgent files. So when I think of urgent files, I think of real estate transactions. And one of the first real estate transactions that I had in March was a young family buying a home from an elderly gentleman. And this gentleman had just moved into a senior's residence. And we couldn't postpone the date of the transaction for numerous reasons. The family needed to move, and the vendor needed the funds for his care. The issue was that I couldn't avail myself of electronic signature because he didn't have access to internet or to a cellular phone. And so, I had to mail him the documents in advance for his review. And ultimately, I presented myself at the residence on the sidewalk while he was on the other side of the glass door. And we read the document together. He showed me his ID through the glass. It was surreal, but we got it done, and the family is safely in their new home, and, he got his funds and he's safe. So I think it was worth it.
Thank goodness.
Oh, good on you. We're talking with notary Nadia DeRiggi, just talking about some of the lengths their notaries are having to go through these days. And one of the things I'm sure you're constantly preaching, however, unfortunately, people aren't getting things done and putting their legal documents in order as much as they should be. Nadia, what are the benefits of preparing in advance?
Well, planning in advance simply allows us to maintain a certain level of control in our lives when things get out of control. So when things such as our health, prevent us from being able to speak for ourselves and make our decisions, we will have already put these wishes down on paper. So it's really a protection for us, for our future. It avoids leaving our care, leaving other decisions to the civil code, to family members. It allows us to make those decisions ourselves.
And I think that's one of the important points you're saying. I always ask, okay, if you don't do it, well, now you're pretty well leaving it in the hands of the government to make decisions on behalf of your family, right? If that's what I understand.
Yeah, you're leaving it up to chance. I mean, depending on what it is, if it's someone passing away, we're going to look at the civil code and see what stipulations are in there and who's going to inherit what and in what capacity. If we're talking about a protection mandate and we don't have one of those, well, then we're leaving that to chance as well. Anyone in the family can step forward to take care of us. It may not necessarily be the person that we would have appointed. So there's a number of risks that we take when we just leave things to chance and we don't take matters into our own hands.
I hear you. Speaking as a grief counselor, let's get real. Why do people put things off?
Well, I think in general, you may know more than me, but I think in general people are afraid to think of themselves as vulnerable. I think, facing that vulnerability obviously takes some courage. I also think, though, that people have a false notion that writing your will is an overly complicated process, and so they get overwhelmed that way, and so they just put it off to another day. Or they may say, well, I don't have all the answers right now, so I'm going to wait until I have all the answers, and then I'm going to get it done.
All legitimately understandable reasons, but we're also talking about, as you mentioned so clearly, the benefits of why we want to prepare in advance. We don't want to think about it. Nobody ever wants to think about their own mortality or incapacitation, yet not doing it, not doing these things and preparing for them, you leave the family, as I've seen far too many times, in a real crisis and at a very vulnerable time. So let me ask you again, why do you think people should be doing it now?
Well, I think now's the perfect time. People may have a little bit more time to be thinking about these things. I think the situation has also put in front of us the fact that we are vulnerable, all of us, and we're all in this together. And so I think it's a responsibility that we have as members of the community, as members of a family, to really make sure that things are in order so that we protect those that we love and we protect ourselves. So I think don't be afraid to contact your notary or your lawyer. look into the process, get the information. Now's a great time. We're all home on our laptops. Good time to
Yeah.
look this up.
It is the right time. It's time to reflect, and many families are, and you're absolutely right, Nadia. It's Nadia DeRiggi, notary, giving us some great advice. And just for clarification, I see this in my world, in the senior living world, Nadia, so often people have their will, and then they often say, I have that power of attorney that you were referring to, and they think everything's good. But when it comes time to taking decision-making power of a parent or a loved one, they realize that, wait a minute, I actually needed this protection mandate. And you could put that in a legal document, but there's actually a process that has to take place for you to take the decision-making powers. Can you just briefly explain what that process is?
Sure. So for a protection mandate to be used, it has to be enacted, and so your incapacity has to be declared by your doctor and by a social worker. It's different in the power of attorney in that the person that you've appointed can't just take it and use it and take over your life, so to speak. So with a protection mandate, we're really going to verify that you have, that you no longer have your capacity, that you are in need of this legal representation. And so if you are a family member and you notice that your parent is perhaps in a situation where their health requires them to be represented, you may want to contact their doctor, or if they have a social worker, contact the social worker or contact their notary and ask the question, is this the right time to be enacting the protection mandate? How do I go about doing this?
And that's termed homologation, correct? Is that the term?
That's correct, yes.
Okay.
So you have given us a lot of information, and I think very, very important information. You've also made it pretty demystified in my terms around, so it's a phone call to a notary to start to get this process going. Like, I want people to understand that it's not as complicated as they think.
Well, it's not. I mean, I think people get scared off when they hear, there is a court proceeding. What they have to understand is they have to put themselves in the shoes of the person who's going to be declared incapacitated. So if I, for example, am going to be declared incapacitated, I would want to know about it. So people don't need to be afraid. They just need to reach out and get the information. We just want to make sure that this person is in need of this assistance. We're going to take the necessary steps. And just reach out to the professionals to get the help that you need and allow them to take you through it step by step. It's not as complicated as you think.
So such good advice, because we've seen it time and time again, especially when we're dealing with even a sale of a home, and if someone, an owner of a home, is declared not able to, well, you can't sell that home. That you must go through that process. And homologation process, now, it could take what, a couple months, 3 months?
It could take a couple of months. I mean, right now, our courthouses are not fully operational. So with the coronavirus, things are taking a little bit longer. But it can take several months.
Okay, all right. Nadia, thank you so much. Nadia DeRiggi, notary extraordinaire. We really appreciate you coming on the air here, and we want to wish you, again, happy Mother's Day and a happy birthday to your son.
Thank you so much
How can
for
people
having me.
reach you if they want to reach you?
They can reach me by phone at 514-484-2788 or on our website, lamarderiggi.com.
All right, thank you so much.